In today's society, with all the talk about how human activity is making the planet hotter, it's kind of hard to imagine a time, specifically a year, where things get so cold it causes worldwide irregular weather, crop failures, famine, and death. But this is something that did happen, and while 1816 was a long time ago, it's not ancient history, making it even more surprising. So, let's dive in and talk about the year without a summer. And if topics like this interest you, consider subscribing. A new video is released every Friday. The year was 1816. Across the globe, people hoped for peace after decades of conflict. In Europe, the French Emperor Napoleon had been defeated at Waterloo. The wars that had consumed the continent for nearly a generation were finally over. In America, the War of 1812 had ended, leaving young families eager to rebuild their farms and towns. For the first time in years, the world expected recovery. Fields would bloom, trade would return, and life would resume its familiar rhythm. But instead, the earth had other plans. What came was not peace, nor prosperity, but a chill in the air, a dimness in the light, a summer that never arrived. People would call it the year without a summer, or more grimly, 1800 and froze to death. The disaster had begun a year earlier, in April of 1815, with the eruption of Mount Tambora in the Dutch East Indies, today's Indonesia. Tambora exploded with a force more than 100 times greater than Mount St. Helens, sending a column of fire and ash 25 miles into the sky. Entire villages were incinerated. The blast was heard as far as 1,200 miles away, louder than any cannon, louder than war itself. The immediate death toll was staggering, over 70,000 in the region. But the eruption's true impact stretched far beyond Indonesia. Tambora hurled millions of tons of ash and sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere. There, above the clouds, the particles spread like an invisible shroud, wrapping the globe. The effect was subtle, but profound. Sunlight itself was dimmed. Scientists today call it a volcanic winter. For those alive at the time, it felt like the very seasons had been broken. By late 1815, people were already noticing signs. In Europe, sunsets turned blood red and violet, painted with unnatural colors. In the United States, a lingering haze covered the sky. A Connecticut farmer wrote in his diary, "The sun was dark and discolored. Its light was not so brilliant as usual. It gave no heat, as though its power were diminished." Most dismissed it as odd weather. No one suspected the world was about to endure one of the harshest years in modern memory. When 1816 arrived, the strangeness deepened. In New England, the spring thaw never truly came. Frost clung to the ground well into May. By June, snow fell, 5 inches deep in Vermont. Farmers woke to find their corn blackened and ruined by ice. In July, frost struck again, killing what few crops had survived. And in August, the month of harvest, farmers in Pennsylvania reported sheets of ice forming on their ponds. In Canada, the St. Lawrence River froze in midsummer. Cattle collapsed in the fields, starved of fodder. Families who had survived the War of 1812 now faced a new, more merciless enemy: the weather. Across the Atlantic, the story was no different. Britain endured endless rains. Summer days were gray, raw, and bone-chilling. A London paper remarked, It has rained nearly every day this summer. The hay harvest is nearly ruined, and the wheat looks to be equally bad. In France, vineyards failed. In Germany, rivers burst their banks. In Switzerland, storms pounded the countryside for weeks on end. Crops rotted in the fields before they could be harvested. Further east, Asia suffered equally. In China, cold weather devastated rice crops. In India, the monsoon season faltered. Where rains did come, they came in torrents, bringing floods and helping spread a new terror: cholera. From Bengal, the disease spread outward, carried along trade routes, becoming one of the deadliest pandemics of the 19th century. Hunger soon followed. In Europe, food prices soared beyond reach. In Britain, the price of oats rose eightfold in a single year. In Switzerland, grain became so expensive that riots broke out. Desperate peasants looted storehouses and bakeries. In Germany, mothers begged on the streets for bread to feed their children. A traveler in France wrote, "The people appear half-starved and are pale as death. They subsist on weeds, roots, and what miserable scraps they can find." In Ireland, already scarred by poverty, the potato crops failed again, deepening the misery of the rural poor. North America fared little better. Families slaughtered livestock they could no longer feed. Without hay, cattle starved in barns. Farmers abandoned ruined fields and set out in wagons toward the west, seeking more fertile land in Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. This exodus reshaped the population of the United States. But famine was not the only legacy of 1816. That summer, on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland, a small group of writers took shelter from the storms that raged day after day. Lord Byron, Percy Bysshe Shelley, Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin, and their companions passed the gloomy hours indoors, reading ghost stories by candlelight. One evening, Byron proposed a contest. Each should try to write a tale of horror. From Byron's pen came the haunting poem Darkness, a vision of a sunless earth where the bright sun was extinguished and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space. And from the mind of young Mary Godwin came a story that would change literature forever. Inspired by lightning, science, and the terrible atmosphere outside, she imagined a scientist who created life and a monster that turned upon its maker. That summer, Mary Shelley began to write Frankenstein. The storms of 1816, the cold, the fear, they gave birth to Gothic literature's greatest creation. By 1817, the haze in the skies began to lift. Tambora's veil slowly settled back to earth. Temperatures warmed, crops returned, and the famine eased. But the scars remained. In Europe, thousands had died of hunger and disease. In Asia, the cholera epidemic, sparked by failed monsoons, would echo for decades. In North America, the westward migrations sparked by crop failures helped populate the heartland of the United States. Farmers learned painful lessons. Many turned to hardier crops, rye, oats, turnips, that could survive poor weather. Others began experimenting with new techniques of soil improvement and irrigation. For scientists, the year without a summer became a key lesson in climate. It proved that a single volcanic eruption could alter weather across the globe, a warning that remains relevant today. Scientists study Tambora as a case study, not only in geology, but in climate change. The eruption showed how fragile the balance of Earth's climate truly is. It raises unsettling questions. What if another Tambora erupted tomorrow? Or Yellowstone? What if a nuclear war created its own nuclear winter? The people of 1816 had no warning, no scientific understanding of what was happening. They endured the famine, the cold, and the fear in bewilderment. Today, we at least understand the cause, but the threat remains. The year without a summer was more than a curiosity of weather. It was a global catastrophe, born of fire and ash on the far side of the world. It brought snow in June, frost in August, and darkness at noon. It starved peasants in Europe, drove American farmers west, and inspired stories that endure to this day. And that was how the summer of 1816 went down. While it's comforting to think we have a better grasp on how certain events can affect our society, we still don't have much control of outside forces. The best thing we can do is learn from this event and ensure all our emergency services and rations are funded and in place. And also, we can't dwell on what could happen. No one can predict the future. But knowing what happened in the past can at least help prepare us for the uncontrollable. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this channel with your friends by attaching my YouTube URL to a carrier pigeon's message. Trust me, it's the fastest, most convenient way. See you next week.